Hello and welcome to the Retail is Detail podcast with your host, Jamie Hamer. The Retail is Detail podcast focuses on technology and innovation in retail, with guests from either innovative retail tech players or retailers themselves who are adopting new technologies. We interview founders and C-suite executives from top firms who are changing the retail game for the better and delighting the end consumer. This podcast is brought to you by insurance technology firm LangSync, where I am co-founder. LangSync is on a mission to ensure the future of retail includes fair, transparent, seamless product protection for your most valuable possessions. We work with retailers to offer product protection at the point of sale or direct to customers, designing fair, transparent, easily claimable product protection with the end customer in mind, which is at the heart of everything we do. We've got another brilliant guest for you on the show today. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to the Retail is Detail podcast, the tech retail podcast. I am joined today by Sal Mohammed of Quick to Act Partnerships and LangSync. Sal, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Jamie. Great to be here.
Nice. So can you talk us through, you have a variety of interests, but I'm just keen to understand your transition from being one of Google's youngest partnership managers to founding Quick to Act, where you work with companies to develop meaningful partnerships. What drew you to the partnership space in the first place?
So going back, actually, I fell into business and fell into small to medium business, retail, and as a result, partnerships. So I did the graduate scheme at Telefonica '02. So I was chucked into an area called B2B and had no idea that a telco had a business section. And it obviously makes a lot of sense, right? You've got maybe 3 or 4 main players in any country in the telco space, and every business needs a phone. So by default, you have a third of the businesses in a country that you need to look after. So that's what our B2B division did. And I ended up leading an area called business commerce. So it was my job to basically figure out what do all these small and medium businesses actually need in addition to telephony services. So obviously super fast internet, but what about other products? Like, do a lot of these companies need a website? Do they need a POS terminal to take payments? Do they need a accounting software that can go around it? So it was my job to go and make these partnerships to basically unlock the creativity that sits within these SMBs. So that's really where I hone my partnership skills, because obviously everybody wants to do a deal with you because you have such a large base. And that transitioned me then to going to Google, where I looked after tech partnerships. And these were specifically, again, unlocking small and medium businesses. So how can you have the same firepower as Argos, but being a small business? So how do you get online and advertise without actually having to look at doing budget management, understanding the technology, doing all the data analysis? So we would do partnerships with players like Etsy, like Shopify. So you could do a one-click shot to basically unlock the same sort of leverage. So we were building some early AI systems that would basically do all this budget management optimization for you. So that was really sort of my journey then into Google, and then further servicing small and medium business, particularly in the retail space. And then I kind of had this eureka moment thinking, well, it's great. I've got this 10-person team. We're going around doing these great partnerships, but what if every startup could do partnerships with a team like this? And it was quite obvious that, well, what if I just left and recreate this team and help other startups? So that was really the genesis of QTA. And then it was a realization that actually partnerships aggregates in a way that many things don't. Every partnership, you get sharper, you get quicker, you get a wider network, you build more technology. The landing pages are good to go. The know-how, the mistakes that you learn, the network you build, everything starts to aggregate. So that's really sort of the secret behind QTA, which is how do you take a partnership that would take anybody else a year to do and do it in a week by breaking down each part of the partnership ecosystem and really going to town on making it quicker, sharper, better.
And what was the moment you realized you were good at developing partnerships?
It's a good question. I don't think it's about being good. I think it's about understanding the leverage unlock. So I tell a lot of clients that, look, if I went to your company on my own to do partnerships, I would fail. It's actually about understanding the ecosystem of merging the people, the network, and the technology together. And not many people realize that they can put that together. So even if you take a company like Google, I would be shocked if they did partnerships better than we do. But they have, it's because we're aggregating. And if you almost think about it in like the 300 metaphor, right? You've got this massive army going against 300 people. And it's all about the way they configure themselves. So you can have, I don't know, 1,000 partnership managers at Google, but none of them are talking to each other. They're not sharing data. They're not sharing information. They're not sharing go-to-market techniques. They're all doing their own thing in their own silos and not reaping the benefits. And what we do is like, how can we aggregate everything we do? If we're doing 80 partnerships a year, each of that goes back into the wheel to make everything quicker and easier, basically.
And we had you speak at a furniture event we put on back in January, which we're really grateful for. And you could see the change in the room when we were talking to them about insurance. We had a digital agency talking to them about marketing and online optimization. But partnerships was clearly not something that they'd heard about or been exposed to as much. Why haven't SMBs realized the power of partnerships and what it can do for them, even at an early business stage?
I think it's because they don't realize they're doing them all the time. So 75% of the world and GDP is indirect, meaning that there's a third party involved in it, right? So if you're a retailer and you've got Oatly milk stocked, you didn't turn up with a cup and go and pick it up, right? You've got a third party distribution network that's been plugged into there. If you go to Sunglass Hut and buy your Meta Ray-Bans, that's a partnership deal that was structured. They've got terms, ways to sell it, marketing development funds. It's people don't look at the world like that and actually realize that most of the GDP, over $60 trillion, moves through partnerships. And, when we go and collect our COVID jab, you just say, oh, I just took a jab, right? You don't realize that Oxford and AstraZeneca had to come together and figure out a distribution strategy, a pricing strategy, legality, which parts of the world to give it to free to. So it's more that partnerships just ambiently exists under most activity and it gets washed away. But I kind of try and rally people that when you take them seriously and bring them to the forefront, that's when you could unlock some crazy things, right? That's when you get a Meta Ray-Ban glass that can completely transform how people navigate the physical world.
And if you're looking for partnerships as an SMB organization or a retail tech supplier or a small retailer, what are the low-hanging fruit? What questions would you ask yourself to find a quick win partnership for you?
I would say keep it super simple. Like, where does 1 + 1 = 3? And if you're on the high street, just scour around. You're going to look at shops that you pass every single day, and it could be the new mattress store that's opened up in town. Why don't you say, hey, well, why don't you come and do a takeover in our ice cream shop and we'll do a matcha flavor and we'll make a big deal about it on the high street and then both of us will win? Like, how can you just, even just in your close vicinity, looking who could I work with that I've not been working with already? And some of it could be just going to the local office and saying, hey, people want to get fed. They want to get fed quickly. What if we just set up a small stall here? Like, it's just using what you have around you and seeing how you can do something new that would benefit everyone, right? So if you think about that example of going to an office, the office owner loves it because people in the office are going to be happy that they can get things easily. Maybe they didn't have the capabilities to spin up a kitchen and the infrastructure there. So they get that problem solved. The person who is going to them is going to sell way more sandwiches or whatever they're pushing. And then the person who's occupying that office suddenly doesn't lose all the productivity of having to go and queue and, search endlessly for the right sandwich in Tesco. So how can everybody win? That triple win, sort of the customer win, the partner win, and yourself win. So I think that's a framework I would try and use to unlock a partnership idea.
Very nice. So you've helped corporate startups drive over 200 million of incremental revenue through partnerships at QTA so far. What are some key partnerships or deals that you're really proud of?
I think the deals I'm really proud of are the ones that move a company forward, but also unlock massive value for the end customer. So, we do a lot of deals in the ad space around helping people advertise, right? But it's not my clients make a bunch of money. We feel great because they've gone and acquired a bunch of SMB customers and they're growing super fast. But it's actually that the end customers on the ground are suddenly now growing their business on autopilot, where before maybe they were on the yellow pages, they weren't getting any results, they weren't featured, they didn't know how to spin anything up, they were trying on Canva to figure it out, it wasn't working, and you open them up to the whole internet as a distribution model and channel, and suddenly they're growing, they're hiring. So I think I always take it back to what is the ground impact of that. And I think the other thing that's close to our heart, and maybe we'll get into it, is our charity. And Dogo is a healthcare charity that delivers free healthcare in Uganda and Nigeria. and it's full partnerships. So we work with partner hospitals to deliver free care. You can have this sort of ragtag band of different partners come together and deliver free healthcare. That kind of just shows the formative power of partnerships when put together well. And again, like COVID was an example of that, where not only did you have the drug that was made, you had F1 teams coming together to make ventilators. You had Johns Hopkins University pulling data together to help people understand prevalence rates. You had people banding together to deliver food. Like, I think that's the beauty of partnerships and the ones that I really sort of stick with.
How does QTA approach partnerships differently in the retail sector as opposed to other industries?
It's really got to be done with the particular type of retail company you're working with. I think you've got to take, it's almost like every single type of retail company is its own vertical. I think that's the way I would look at it. You can't band retail into, let's go and do retail partnerships for a SMB insurance company the same way we're going to do retail partnerships for a cleaning product that wants to get into Waitrose. Like, they are completely different things and they have to be treated almost from the ground up. And personally, that's the fun bit for me. I love going in and understanding new businesses, new verticals, understanding how the partner chains work with each other, where the entry points are. You know, for an insurance company, we might be looking at, okay, well, somebody's already doing their accounting. What about if we worked with them? Or somebody did the leasing? How do we get into that model? And then on maybe the product side, it's, well, great. Who are the buyers? What is the distribution chain? What's the regional strategy that we might want to deploy? How does the whole operations work? Is there a non-compete if you get into Waitrose, then you can't get into Asda? Like, how does all those different aspects work? So yeah, I think breaking down retail, whether it's telco or something physical or, you know, looking at Wi-Fi, like all these different things have a different entry point. But I think the thing that I really like about retail is there are so many things that you have to put together, whether it's your insurance, whether it's your POS system, whether it's your legal stuff, whether it's your staff training, whether it's your billing infrastructure. There's all these different products and tools and people that need to go and engage with what is, you know, the backbone of every nation, really. Typically, you'll find 98% of companies are small businesses, and a large majority of those are retail businesses. I think it's a super important industry to double down on.
Very cool. And talk to me about we'll come back to partnerships in a second and tools you can use to put them together. But I'm just curious about you, Sal. I mean, you mentioned Dogo as a healthcare charity who have built QTA coming out of Google partnerships. You've now founded LangSync, which is a large language model, sort of ChatGPT, Anthropic, like optimization model to make sure that people appear on search for that. And you head the EMEA Zoogla network as well. So plenty of diverse interests. What's really important to you and what ties all these together and what's driving you?
I think it's maybe two things, curiosity and impact. So one, I just like different things. I like to see how things work, how the world is put together. And then the second is, you know, all those things have a thread of helping people, whether it's a Zoogla that's just left DeepMind and wants to go and raise some funding, how can I help them? Or somebody in Nigeria that wants free healthcare, how can I help them? Or a partnership we can put together to unlock small business potential, how can I be a part? I think it's just being useful. And, you know, a lot of these are structurally, and we try and do well economically from that. And I think both of those are an interesting duality to it. I had a great CEO who said, you know, our generation, you would do well first, and then on the back end, you would try and do good. And he said, you know, I really do believe with all the sustainability pushes and the social conscious consumers that this is the first generation that can do well and do good at the same time. So that's a really critical bit for me, which is, yeah, okay, great. I can launch a great commercial partnership, but also how can I spend my time delivering food to homeless shelters or trying to unlock healthcare in Nigeria, where, you know, I'm Nigerian myself. Like, those things mean just as much, if not more to me than some of the partnership stuff we're doing on the commercial angle. So having that balance is just really critical.
How do you balance your time and schedule with those competing priorities?
I would say trying to be leveraged. I think leverage is just the number one sort of beauty of the world, right? Whether it's slingshotting the leverage on gravitational force to slingshot your way to Mars, or just being able to harness AI to do what previously 100 people could have done. Like, leverage is underpinned by everything. And I think you get leverage by getting great people involved. So everything always collapses back to the people you're around, whether that's great people like yourself that, give you energy and give you ideas, or that's your own team that you put together that, can carry a lot of the slack and do things and unlock things that you only could have dreamed of, right? And I think it's how can the whole be put together by all these different aspects. And I think maybe that's also the operative word for partnerships. That's why 1+1 can equal 3, because of that leverage. You can do things that you just could not have done on your own. I think it's just super important.
And what are the characteristics you look for in those people that you work with or associate with in these partnerships and to drive your ideas forward?
I think there's one. I think everything always gets boiled down to one thing ultimately, right? Like when you really scrape it, what was that? Okay, then what was under that? Okay, what was under that? For me, I would say high leverage. High agency. So it's one of those things. Like you know it when you see it. You find someone with high agency, you just get lifted up. When your team are operating on high agency, you almost feel like you're levitating as you're sort of going throughout your day. You're like, whoa, this is happening and that's happening and that just released and we've just got this back. Somebody messaged me the other day. I was so glad to be featured on LangSync's top AI LLMO experts. I was like, what is this? And obviously one of the team had gone, put a list together, done extensive research, put it out on our LinkedIn, tagged everybody in it. And then now it's getting virality because all these influencers and creators resharing it, reposting it, and I'm just like, that's what I need. I can't wake up and try and quarterback all of those sorts of ideas. People really need to operate at high leverage to make that all happen. So I'd say try and find high agency people, whatever you're doing. They're great to be around.
Oh, wow. So finding people who are self-starters, who will get things done, who you don't even need to know about. And a large part of that needs to be letting them have freedom and agency to do their thing.
Yeah. And permission to mess up too, right? Like you can't have it all your way. You can't, you release attention a little bit, some things are going to come back and go, oh crap, what happened there? But that's the game you play. I think the way I would look at it, it's the risk isn't, it's an asymmetrical risk. Like if something goes wrong, it usually goes wrong like, oh crap, we got to do like 2 days more work. But like when it goes right, you've got a whole new business line. And I think you look at Google and you look at the products that they've actually launched, whether it's Waymo or Gmail, etc. It's by getting high agency people and saying, have at it. Some of them, Google Glass, fail, and but they get rode off in the margins when you actually look at what you get when you actually build a Chrome browser or you build a Gmail. So keep swinging.
Amazing. How do you do that? How do you let teammates know that they have your full backing to go make mistakes?
I think it's an honest conversation. Like you've got to be very conscientious when things go wrong, like how you behave and react. Like even your whole body language. If you're just deflated and crap, but why? Oh gosh, what have you done? Like, it's like telling a child off sometimes. Like, that they're going to lose confidence the next time they go and approach that thing, right? So you've got to almost take a little step back and manage yourself and then, say to people, look, it's a little bit like being a football coach almost. It's like, okay, like bad ball, right idea, and people will try again. People will try that pass again and it will work eventually. But you've got to let them know that you were onto something. We just, could have took a right instead of a left and, we'll make it. But the margins are always small in this stuff as well, right? Like, yeah, you've just got to be conscious of that.
And so you've talked about the role that AI will play in partnerships moving forward, quite a lot of QTA. What specific AI applications are making things easier or are you leveraging to make partnerships happen faster and at great scale?
So in everything, in personal life and partnerships and in retail, like it's just going to be incredible. I think right now, everyone talks about AGI. I gave a talk at the Francis Crick Institute yesterday. They're doing an impact challenge with Cambridge University, and everyone was very focused on asking me about AGI and if it's coming and like how to define it. And I said, like, don't even worry about that. I was like, if there is almost no technological improvement from now on, the world is completely changed. Like we've bought the Lego pieces, we just don't know how to put them together yet. I think that's the real unlock, right? You can go into a lot of retail businesses right now and unlock the way they do stock management, the way they talk to customers, the way they do their invoicing, their taxes, the legal obligations that they have, the hiring. Like all of these things are out there right now. I will typically, when I'm doing partnerships, I'll come up with a few sort of concepts about where I want to take it, and then I'll just give it to the AI. Like, we've built our own partnership idea generator. I enter two companies' names, and it will generate me the perfect partnership, a summary paragraph, step-by-step examples of how it would be implemented, the benefits to the customer, the benefits to the partner, the benefits to the client, and then it will give me three other ideas just in case I don't like them. The ideas are better than mine, and how I did that is I built a custom GPT and I fed it all the things that I've ever said about partnerships. The ones that we've done, the way I think about them, the win-win-win strategies. So it knows it better than me now, and it can go out and look at other examples and be like, oh yeah, cool. IKEA and Nike, great. A connected furniture fitness suite. So, designed for office workers. So you'll have a Nike and IKEA treadmill, walking treadmill you can have in your office, and they'll have a light that only activates if you do this amount of activity. Like all these, like it'll just spit this out, and I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. And if it's not the fully formed idea, it's enough for me to then pick that up. And I'm quite confident that if we have two clients and we know what they want, their commercial model, etc., I think by the end of the year, we can get to a one-click partnership where the idea is generated, the business model is mapped out, the legals are done, the training plan is built, the marketing collateral and go to market is all done in a click. And yeah, landing page, everything. So, everyone talks about we need this development, we need this breakthrough. I think actually, if you know how to put the pieces together that are already there, you can get quite a lot done.
Wow. And you're a man who every time I talk to you, you've got a new AI tool you're excited about that you're leveraging in this sort of thing. You mentioned things there like one-click marketing materials, legal paperwork. Is this all the primary LLMs, your ChatGPT, etc., or are you using specific tools that you think are absolutely brilliant right now?
We do a lot of outreach. So I do tools for outreach. So Telescope.io is a great tool. So if you want to do outreach, like just say what you want. So I'm trying to find CEOs of local fitness gyms in Manchester. It will just say, great, how many do you want? And it basically turns into like Tinder. So it will swipe the first 5, let's say, and then it'll go, got it. I know what you need now. How many do you need? I go, give me 500. Go, here you go. And then you can put that into something like Clay, where you can then say, hey, write me a personalized line for each of these CEOs. And then you can put that into something like Instantly or Lemlist, and you can say, hey, send each of them a LinkedIn request, send each of them a follow-up after that. So it's really about linking these tools together. For video generation, using stuff like HeyGen, where you can create your own avatar, or Eleven Labs, where you can create your own customer service agent, basically within 5 minutes, and feed it information about your company and basically handle most tasks. So yeah, I think you can get very far with the native tools. Obviously, the Google Suite is very powerful, ChatGPT, but I think, yeah, playing around with some of the other tools is really cool. Lovable for vibe coding. If you've not vibe coded yet, definitely do it. Do the trial, but spend £20 trying to build something for your retail business. For instance, say, hey, we want to run a promotion where we put people through this game, and then upload your logo and say, make me a Flappy Birds for my store and brand it in our colors or something. And you'll have a fully functional game in 5 minutes. So whatever you can think about as a product, you can probably build with Lovable. So definitely vibe coding is a fun activity too.
Awesome. Thanks, Sal. I have been meaning to get on that, and I will as a result of this prompt. Tell me about LangSync. So this is a relatively new venture for you, focused on large language model optimization. Why this space, and how important is being named on large language searches going to be?
Well, I'll start with the back end of the question, which is by 2028, half of all searches are going to be in the GPTs. So whatever traffic you have, just slice it in half. And that's critical for most businesses. That's not, some businesses will lose, like most businesses are going to lose traffic. And the way I look at about it now is like, take the analogy, you've got 100 coins and you've got a baggie walking down the street, you trip up, 50 of them fall on the floor, and you're like, crap, where are they? Like, that's your traffic falling in half. And then you get on your knees, and if you're good at what we call LLMO, large language model optimization, you'll get on your knees to pick them up. You'll see that, they're spread out, but you pick them up. But then you realize competitors 50 are there too. Oh, and another competitor's 50 are there. And oh gosh, there's another 100 that didn't even exist before because people are asking these new questions. And that's why we wanted to move fast on this and actually help companies go and get featured and win traffic in the GPTs. And it's not just a GPT. So, Google have rolled out what they call SGE, so Search Generative Experience. They're the AI answers in the beginning part when you now search. It will typically give you an AI answer. So even getting featured in there is kind of what we're specializing in. And two reasons why I did it. One is we're uniquely placed to build this type of company. So again, I look after the ex-Google and DeepMind network for Europe, Middle East, and Africa, which is about 15,000 people. But if you think about AI, like it's not really spoken about, but it's a Google story. So Ilya, who built ChatGPT, was stolen from Google. If you look at the 11 Labs founders, they're from Google. If you look at Dario from Anthropic, also from Google. If you think about the researchers that kicked off the paper, all 5 of them all were at Google, all have left. So we're sitting on this unique base of the world's leading AI engineers, and you're seeing some of them get swept up for $100 million a pop, right? And having access to that community as friends and people to lean on is actually super valuable. So we can understand how these models are working, like what does a post-training environment look like? How do they actually get fed? What is the best ways to sort of crack this new world of SEO, if you look at it like that? So that was kind of the first realization. I was like, oh, great. Like if anyone can build this, hopefully it's us. And then the second reason is, again, going back to that purpose, which is this is everybody's problem, which is also why I'm quite relaxed about BD for this. I'm like, hold on, you've got the problem. Like this is your traffic. Like you can do this somewhere else if you want, but that's fine. But traffic is going and search is now dispersed. You've got TikTok, doing a day in searches what ChatGPT do in a month. So even put that in perspective. ChatGPT do about 4.5 billion searches a month. TikTok do that in a day, right? You've got Perplexity, DeepSeek, ChatGPT, Gemini. You're going to have to figure out how you feature and appear in all these things whilst running your business, whilst leveraging, right? And you're going to need help doing it. So I was like, this is a great business to set up. You're helping people. It's a scary thing. Some companies are losing up to 1 million clicks a month. So, being a CMO at that company is probably not a great thing, right? And to go and say, hey, we can help you. Let's work together. I think that's what we do it for. So yeah, it's been great to sort of launch that. And then we launched LLMO London, which is our monthly event we do to basically bring the best people from the industry to talk about the latest techniques to make that happen. So marketers, agencies, investors can come and learn. We'll be rolling that out to San Francisco and New York as well. So yeah, which is just a beautiful place to be in. And it's super exciting to, be head first into this AI wave and see how it's all changing, right? Like crap, some companies over-index on Reddit, some companies over-index on Wikipedia, some companies do this in the post-training. It's just been fascinating. And there's a whole tool stack emerging around it as well. So like the SEM rushes of the worlds, but for this particular discipline is getting really interesting.
And diving into this space, like what's the biggest differences versus traditional SEO? What surprised you?
It's not surprised me, but it's a massive unlock and a massive shift. I think there's probably maybe 2 interesting shifts. So one is that AI is multimodal. So, if you think about the typical Google bot, it would go and sort of read the text and do its thing, right? But AI can read, it can listen, it can watch. So it's off watching YouTube videos and it's completely redefining ratings and ranking. So it's no more like, oh, I'm John Lewis, I'm top of the pops. It's like, no. Like this is actually the better assortment pick. Or I actually watched this small creator's video and they speak a lot of sense. Like it actually makes sense with the data I have, not this big influencer just because they've got a big following. So the rules are getting rewritten about who is relevant. I think the other thing is, I think everything is going to change. So websites, I think websites are going to be more like a hard drive rather than something you actually use. So my agent will go to your website, pick up all the data, and then redisplay it to me how I like my websites to be displayed. You're talking about, there's a concept called just-in-time software, which basically you'll get the software when you need it. If you think about Lovable now, it can create an app or a website in about, a minute. You'll have it done in a split millisecond and redistributed to you. And that might come via your glasses or something else, but it's going to be crazy. And I think that shift also we're just moving into this agentic world where your agent is going to be doing most of the things for you. It will know your size. So if I say, hey, like, get me 3 pairs of white jeans that I can look at, like, it's just going to go. It knows my size. It knows I want it for summer. And then it will put them up probably on my Meta Ray-Ban glasses. And it'll say, hey, which ones do you like? I'll say, oh, second one. And then it'll go, okay, cool. It's coming on Wednesday. So that whole journey about how we even absorb traffic, what we're doing, the form factors we're using, I think that's really why this sort of LangSync thing this is what we're really building for, really. I think that's why I didn't call it LLMO sync or SEO sync. It's language model sync. And we think ads are probably going to fold into that as well. I think there's going to be no difference between SEO and ads. I think the whole thing is going to be collapsed into one. And yeah, you're going to have to learn how to market to an agent rather than market to a person or market to both. So the whole paradigm shift is happening. And I thought we've just got to be early to this. It's as equally as important as partnerships. I think partnerships is also a critical piece of this, right? Partnerships are arguably more important because partnerships trump technology. So for instance, the Apple Intelligence deal is a really interesting example of that. By most people's accounts, Claude is better than ChatGPT. A lot of developers, a lot of users. The issue is now that ChatGPT has done the Apple Intelligence deal and has gone from 250 million users to 2.2 billion. And now it's in your mail, it's in your notes, and I'm not really trying to move for a small incremental feature. So I think the way that traffic is won and lost is super interesting, but also the partnerships that get done or don't get done are super interesting as well.
Okay, so I guess in that way, like LLMs or the choice of language model that is native or served to you will be as important as sort of web browsers or search used to be.
Yeah, I think there's gonna be an aggregation where people use a very small group of things. It's like you don't have multiple different companies you use for your email, for instance, right? Like I use my Microsoft or my Google. I don't really use that many different browsers. I think we're going to find a lot of aggregation like that, but who's going to be the winner? We'll find out. But I think it's probably going to rest on the partnerships that they do or don't do. Obviously, OpenAI would not exist without its Microsoft partnership. Wouldn't have any of the compute, any of the capital. So yeah, these partnerships are super important.
And looking specifically at the retail space, what trends there are getting you excited or do you find especially interesting?
I think it's a bullish time for retail, right? I think it's just take a step back. I think it'll be more fun to have a retail presence. Like the problem with retail is like being a startup founder with no money. You don't get funding. You don't get to hire big fancy agencies to do all the stuff for you. So you are everything, right? You're running a bakery, you're up at the crack of dawn, you're doing your taxes, you're trying to find staff, somebody's called in sick, so you need to figure this thing out. The toilet's blocked. Like everything is just painful because you don't have enough leverage, particularly in the form of sort of like knowledge capital. And in this AI world, you're going to have a lawyer at your fingertips. You're going to have a person doing your invoices, a person ordering your stock in the form of an agent. So you can do the fun thing, like actually engaging with the product, engaging with your customers, making people happy. So I do think that's going to be a super interesting thing. I would say maybe 2 other things. So I think the leisure time we're all going to have, it will just mean we just want to meet each other and do physical things more, which is great. And that plays into retail in a big way. And then I would say that the way in which the products are found and sold and distributed are going to change massively as well. So, one of the early companies that we worked with at Google was a company called Pointy. And what they did is enabled small retail companies to basically map their whole inventory catalog. And then Pointy would put that onto Google. So if you said hammer near me, it would be able to pick that up. So really that online to offline journey was sort of done from there. And then, what we tried to help them do is say, okay, well, could all of these products then automatically be fed into Google Shopping so people could run ad campaigns against them to have people actually go into the physical store? And then we had a whole beacon strategy and everything else around that, which is super cool. But I think the companies and tools and things that are going to be emerging are going to give retailers a whole new suite of things that they wish they could have done, right? And I think you guys are doing a very similar thing with Loxa, right? It's an online to offline sort of play, but also the insurance that they wish they could have offered, but just wasn't feasible, either too much paperwork, not enough price points, not enough dynamic flexibility in it. You've solved and brought to them, right? And I think POS Solutions are doing a similar thing. Loyalty cards are doing a similar thing. So all this is going to get powered by AI, and hopefully we're going to see more things on the high street. I think I want to see more diversity on the high street. I don't want to see, a billion Prets. Like, please, let's make it interesting and exciting for more people to open unique boutique experiences.
What sort of unique boutique experiences do you have in mind? What would you like to see on the high street?
Well, I think, we're in London, which is the home of the members club. I think actually, even though it's quite snooty, I think I like the idea of these third spaces emerging. The problem is most of them are just so expensive, right? Like, it's more about your 50-meter swimming pool and your caviar and, fancy dinners and private events and stuff. But actually, like, it's hard to describe that we're going through a loneliness epidemic. Like, how can people meet and do things more often on the high street, whether that's, mixed use spaces. So you've got a coffee shop, but then you've also got a barber's in there. Then you've got this cool vinyl selection. Like, how can we even do partnerships where companies come together and take spaces together and invite community in? And I was on radio, I was on BBC Radio talking about the collapse of libraries. I was saying, like, they're missing such a trick to actually just transform that space into something that people actually want to go to and find cool and find real community there and have a good time. They're huge spaces. Like, how can even libraries maybe even offer up retail space for people? Like, I think some of those things I'd love to see just as a physical embodiment, because it's weird to be in a city as large as London and feel lonely. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. So third spaces are quite interesting.
Very cool. And what would you say to more traditional retailers? Certainly physical retailers. I think you could even say we now have traditional e-commerce retailers, even though that's only been big for 20 odd years, who are afraid of all this change. What would your advice be?
I would say that this is the first time the change is actually probably positive, right? Like, if you think about what happened previously, especially during COVID, it was a migration to online and, making it harder for retailers, especially physical ones, to win. I think we're having the reverse thing happen now, but actually for once they get to use the technology to augment themselves and do more with less. I would say, engage with what people are doing. I'm not saying go and hire some fancy AI automation agency to do a bunch of nothing for you and sell you this dream, etc. Whisper you sweet nothings, but definitely like use the tools to be like, hey, ChatGPT, here's my menu. Like, any suggestions? Like, have I missed anything? Hey, yeah, you didn't put your vegan status on here. Maybe you should do that. Great. Is there anyone that can make me a nice flyer for that? Oh, I can send it to Canva if you want. We actually have a GPT plugin. Brilliant. How can you do the things that you typically take a lot of time to do or are scared to do? You might have a great email list, but you don't know how to put a nice email together or, engage with your customers. You can say, hey, great, I'm going to have a newsletter now. I'm going to have the AI write the newsletter of things that are happening in the store. Like, there's so many different opportunities, but you can't, I think the worst strategy is just closing your eyes to it because you can't swim against the tide of technology. Yes, be careful about how you implement it in the speed and, don't go crazy, but definitely look at where you can make small wins and your life just a lot easier.
Cool, Sal. We're going to move on to the questions I ask all of our guests. So specific to retail, what detail of the retail sector do you like the most?
I like the detail of the customer, the attention to the customer. I think it's a hard graft, right? Retail, the stock, the staffing, all the auxiliary things you have to do. Waking up, seeing that customer happy, knowing that you're part of a community, you're part of something, you're useful, and yeah, just your day is made when you make somebody else's. I just love that aspect, and I think it's so easy, especially in the SaaS world, where we just look at new user growth, new user. Like, we depersonalize the user. Where I think it's opposite in retail, where the user is central to everything and we'll do everything we can to make them happy.
Very cool. Customer focus. Love it. And what detail of retail would you change?
Something around the financing. I think, obviously, it's just a lot that happens. Like, you're always getting hit with blows, right? Whether it's your VAT or your business rates or stock or this is now late or there's tariff changes. Like, it's so hard just from a financial point of view to really make it all make sense. And yeah, I don't know if there's more support, more leeway, more slack we can give. I know there's a few companies that offer some sort of advanced loans, etc. But yeah, there's got to be something in the financing that makes all of this easier and more worthwhile and nicer to come together. Especially, if you're looking at retail, you're looking at things like coffee shops and stuff. It's so precarious on things that are out of your control sometimes, like weather and X, Y, Z. And you might have it might swing your way in 2 months, but actually that's no good when you've got all these commitments. So yeah, something around maybe financing.
Yeah, sure. We've seen loads of in the sectors we play in. We've seen FFX and the Troy Group in tools. We've seen, Homebase and homeware and furniture just go under just because of cash flow issues rather than fundamental problems with their business, or some combination of both. So, giving a very difficult industry with a lot of costs and considerations a little bit more leeway. What's your most controversial prediction for the future of retail?
I wouldn't say it's sort of controversial. I think it's just maybe counterintuitive, which I think like we're on the uptick of retail. Like retail is aided by AI and we're looking at the rise of the solopreneur. Very small teams, people that just love stuff, that just love coffee. I love this, I love that. And I think the mixture of having access to the whole internet and physical thing just does beautiful things where you can have this massive e-com store selling merch and everything else, but you could also have just a very intimate, beautiful thing that you run. So yeah, I think actually more people are going to be opening retail units. I think it's going to be a booming industry, but I think we have to create an environment where people can do that with ease. It's all great AI moving at 1,000,000 miles an hour and regulation and zoning and everything else actually taking forever. And yeah, I actually did my undergrad in town and country planning, so very
Wow.
close to the realities of it. So yeah, maybe that.
Okay. So solving those regulatory issues so that small organizations can move faster. And we've seen that. Like both of us met with Dolls, the furniture retailer, turning over 80 million with 20 people in her office, right? It's just the trends there are no longer towards huge sweeping organizations with a lot of complexity. I suspect we'll see that accelerate. What's your craziest story from a partnership or working in the retail sector?
Okay, maybe from partnership. So we were doing festival partnerships last year. So if you go into a festival, typically you have to rent a car, then, take your tent and stuff. And sometimes you leave it behind. There's a bunch of waste, etc. And we thought, like, what if you just had like a zone inside the festival where you could, before it, basically buy an extra ticket, like a transport ticket for it, and somebody would come to your house, collect all your stuff, and then it'd be waiting for you at the festival. So then you could take the train to the festival. You can go to Glastonbury, right? Glastonbury turns into the 25th most built up area in the country when the festival happens. It's terrible for the locals, the traveler community around it. So we're like, oh, well, what if there was you just take the bus there and you just arrived and you picked up your stuff, and then once you finished, you just dropped it off and it was waiting for you when you got home. And to test out the concept, we actually launched in Scotland. So there's a festival just off an Edinburgh in Ireland, and we were basically like, if we can get it to an island in the middle of Scotland, you can kind of get it anywhere. So let's go and start there. The festival's called Slightly Chilly Man, which is a really cool festival. So it's like quite burner-esque. So yeah, we deployed it there. We sent everyone stuff and we got some great content and had a great festival. So I think that was when I kind of on the train mag, I was kind of like, yeah, this job's pretty cool. Like, we could do stuff like that and actually enjoy a cool festival. I was all muddy and stuff. I was like, yeah, this is fun.
Awesome note. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Sal.
Thank you for having me, Jamie. And yeah, great you've kicked this off, and excited to see the rest of the episodes.